Hi guys, George here. Today what I'm going to bring to you is a couple of tips and tactics with respect to strays, scenario 182. Before we get into the details of the scenario, this actual battle took place on D-Day, where Lieutenant Colonel Robert L. Strayer saved the day by amassing paratroopers from different units that were scattered behind enemy lines into a coherent force, and they went for their objective, which was to capture a bridgehead. The Germans did manage to delay them for quite some time, and by the time that the paratroopers reached their objective, they found out that the objective was already captured by seaborne invasion troops. Now, with respect to the victory conditions, the Americans win immediately upon exiting 10 or more exit victory points. Prisoners don't count, and it has to be off the south edge. The balance here for the Germans is to add an 8-1 leader to the German OB. I highly recommend the balance because this scenario is more challenging as the German player than it is for the American. Now, what do the Germans have to stop, if you're not using the balance, the Americans from achieving their victory objective are 4 conscript units, 4 second line units, and 4 first line units, 2 leaders, and 4 dummies. The Americans have in their OB 8 elite units, paratroopers from different units, 101st, 82nd, 506th, 508th, 2 leaders, and a hero. And it's important to make that distinction because heroes are not leaders. They're single-man counters, but the best they can do is impart a -1 DRM within their normal range of 4 hexes. The other thing you need to know is that the MMG starts dismantled, and that will help you get it and port it to a good location. But unlike the German machine guns, medium machine guns, they cannot be used as light machine guns. Okay, there's one special rule that is important, is that all Americans are stealthy and the German units are lax. And what does that mean essentially is you don't want to become stuck in a close combat situation as the German player, or encounter a close combat situation as the German player, because first the Americans will have the advantage of an ambush, and then with the American firepower they'll be able to always muster at least a 3-to-2 ratio attack against you. So with that said, the strategy that I would like to talk to you about is the tactic that I want to explore with you is the Americans going down the middle of the map, as opposed to taking a flank, and that seemed to be my winning tactic in the first ever game I played at a tournament level. So we'll explore the ins and outs of that, but more importantly, we'll also talk about what the German player can do to avoid the American victory conditions, because it's more challenging to play the German player. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's important to note this fact. Alright, now with that said, we'll turn to the map, and after talking a bit about the tactics, we're going to do a solo replay just to reinforce what we've learned. So I'll pause the video, you guys stay where you are, and we'll attempt something that hasn't been attempted before, which is painting on the board without ruining the board. Let's do that. Okay, so here we are, and we're going to attempt and paint on the board and see what how things should unfold if you're playing the game right. Alright, so first we're going to pick a little brush here and pick a little color. So we'll pick red for the Americans, okay? And let's go right to it and see if we can draw something. So let's see, there. Okay, so ideally as the American player, you want to enter around here. And ultimately, squiggle your way through the orchard and out this way, right? Caveat emptor, my lines will look like chicken scratches at the beginning, but it's fine. Then what you want to do is, well, the other thing you consider is going down the flanks. There you go. One flank or the other. And let's draw another arrow here. A little bit further. There you go. Now, at first glance, you might say, hey, by default, I'm going to take the flanks. And that may not be the optimal strategy as the American player. Of course, and obviously, it will depend on how well the German opponent has set up. But if you take, for example, the American right flank here, you'll see that you are impeded in movement with grain costing you 1.5 movement factors. On the other hand, right here, you do have to consider that there's a lot of open terrain. Going down the middle, you have a lot of hindrances, right, that the German player will have to take into account. And you also have to take into account that the German player at a higher elevation will not be able to see you well into the orchard because orchards block elevation, LOS, loss to higher elevation. So it might not be evident, but this is really your best move. Now, as the German player, what you like to do, let's choose another color for the German player. Let's choose blue. As a German player, what you like to do is get 2 rapid deployment fire groups. And ideally, the rapid deployment fire groups should be comprised of first line 4, 6, 7 squads, because these fellows are not impeded in their amount of movement factors that they have. And what I mean by deployment, I don't mean the rule book deployment. I mean being able to take your troops and take them from one end of the board to the other, or to the other side, wherever they may be needed. So by having 2 rapid deployment fire groups, you would take advantage of your leaders, put the 4, 6, 7s with them, 2 for each, and try and put them towards the border of the first third and the second third of each of the board. So we're talking about here, let's say, yep, and somewhere around there. Actually, a little bit higher. Let's try here, right? And then depending on where the Americans come into play, I shouldn't make my arrows that big, right? They can rapidly deploy using CX to one end or the other, right? And what you want to do, ideally, is meet them somewhere where you can cover the avenues of advance, right? And do so rapidly. Oops, a little bit higher. There you go. So that's my chicken scratches for today. Right. So if you keep those thoughts in mind, you should do well either as the German player or the American. Having said that, let's go to an after-action report and a replay of my solo play. I'll explain to you how what rules I used for solo. Hold on a second, guys. Alright, so we got rid of my chicken scratches. And let's take a look at the board. This is solo play. So what I did first is I constructed a table to randomize the entry point where the Americans will come in, to make it challenging for the American player. Okay, and basically I said, all right, if you roll a 2d6, 2 dice, you roll a 7 or less, the Americans come in from the location which I deem to be optimal, which is this tree line here. If you roll an 8 or a 9, enter from this flank right here. And if you roll a 9 or a 10, or a 9 to actually 10 or 11, they enter from this side here. But if you roll a 12, you'll have to split your U.S. forces into 2 groups, and 1 group will come in each flank. And I said, comprise the groups as you see fit, or divvy them up in 2 equal parts. It's all up to you. Now, how I went about choosing how the units would deploy, and you can either use both options or one. What I did is I used these satchel chits to draw a letter, and I designated a couple of fire groups. First and foremost, I deployed 2 conscript units into 4 half squads to give me more choice. In the end, I had about 12 groups, including 2 dummies. And although I wasn't able to put a letter designation on the dummies, I considered one to be L and one to be M. All right, so let's zoom in with the Bird Dog Cessna and just show you that I used a label and designated each of my 12 groups a letter. And then what I did was I drew a letter, and for example here I drew an E, and I put the unit designated under E as an echo in the proper box. And how each unit would deploy was I constructed this chart, and here I have a location, here I have a number, mostly a sum of 7, 6, or 8, right? The first die being the letter die, so if I rolled a 6-1, I would go to location EE2 and draw the chit there. I think with a board game, the actual board game, you can simplify matters by just getting the chits, randomizing them, and putting them where you feel it would be most beneficial, and actually putting the units in the cloaking sheet, covered, of course, with an equal stack of concealment counters. So that's how I did it, and ultimately the way I chose the locations to where to put the chits is basically I put them where, hey, let's heighten up a little bit there. I put them where it would be an ideal situation to have German units deploy. Here, I believe, is an obvious location. Here would be an obvious location. Remember, these units are concealed to the American player, and they don't know what's hidden beneath them. Here, 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 and here. I did not place the rapid deployment squads anywhere near the middle of the board, but as you'll see, as the game evolved, the American player was challenged even with this setup alone. So with that said, let's move along and see how the game transpired. Here we go. So we're taking off the chits, and I had rolled a 8. Oh, I believe earlier than that. I think that was my weather roll. I had rolled a 7, and the American units were supposed to come in through there. All right, predetermined first and foremost, no choice. And then the German player, completely random. So here I'm putting them on off-board grid, and I thrusted one unit into this fray. So it's a 12-0 attack. Everybody else. And I rolled an 11. Oh, no, an 8 on the 12. Then I rolled an 11, which is not good. Here we got another attack which DM'd this fellow here. 411 morale check. Moved away the broken unit. It's already advanced phase. One obvious mistake that I did right off the bat. Look what this guy's doing here. About to put the snipers on the board, which is a very newbie mistake. It didn't ultimately make a difference, and I caught the error in the course of the gameplay. Coming from starter kit and classic, you don't have these random snipers going off everywhere, and really leveling the game and giving it a twist. It kind of gets to you. I still play Cross of Iron once a week with good old Monty. He's a good player. And here we are. The German player just rolled against him with an 8 even attack and scored a 3. They got, I believe, a K2. Random selection, morale checks, and we even get a casualty reduction dice roll there. So ultimately what happened here was we have a wounded leader and a broken half squad. Or actually, one squad was completely eliminated. Right there. Half broke, half casualty reduced, and casualty reduced again. So you'd think that the Americans are done for with the help of one 447 squad, but doesn't look like it. Here's the German player, movement player, right? Let's see if we can advance it a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. Yep. And here's my rapid deployment group number 1, rapid deployment group number 2. The leaders taking 2 first line squads, each leader is taking 2 front line squads and thrusting them into and in front of the American advance. And basically, as a German player, what you'd like to do is not meet them head on, but put your troops in a position where they can exact fire on the Americans and block their path to advance. If they have to dash across the street, you get an attack with a -2 modifier. Hopefully, you'll score a K result or a morale check, and you'll do the damages or at least delay them. And here we are using bypass movement. I love bypass movement. And they're advancing. I really have to practice my snapshots. Anyway, let's see what we're going to do here. Alright, here we're going into advanced phase. Oh, actually it's defensive fire. Let's take a look. Yeah, American defensive fire. We're kind of firing back. We fired here, we broke this guy, now we're firing there. Here we go. Let's clarify matters, George. He passed the morale check or he pinned? He pinned. Oh well. Now what do we got? We got route phase. Let's see how everybody's going to route. 1, 2, he cannot be interdicted because he's in an orchard. He can't be interdicted because he is behind a wall. And he ends up there. And this guy simply routes back to the leader. There's one broken unit already from the previous turn. Now we got advance. And here are the Germans closing in on the American player. Ally, turn 2. Guys, I like to center on the action. What can you do? Because it's I don't have to read the log really, and it kind of points me in the right direction. One thing I do like to look at is I made notes in the log, and I have that on a different window. There we go. All right. 9 or less to rally this unit here. It is, I believe, Allied rally phase turn 2, and we rallied the poor guy. And I believe we rallied the other fellow as well, because he was a broken morale level of 8, down 4 for desperation morale, makes it a 4, and 5 for the terrain. Another 1 point for the terrain, makes it 5 or less, he rolled a 5. They were all backing at him. We didn't slow them down at all. Or barely. And strike to movement, folks. You don't want to prep fire for no good reason. You need to make it in 3.5 turns to the other end of the board. You're prep firing, you're losing. Prepare to lose phase. There should be a phase like that. Prepare to lose phase instead of prep fire phase. Or we should rename it. Yeah, we should rename it prep fire phase. Here they are advancing like champions right up against this fellow. You know? Not too sure if the 2 resids was correct there, because there was a 1 hindrance there. It should have been probably 1 residual there. But still, we got a pretty good lucky dice roll and broke an American squad there. Okay, so what do we got here? Defensive fire. Let's move along. Okay. We turned the wheel to, yep, German defensive fire. They got a mediocre at best attack there. Oh, a 12. Six up 2. So now we final fire against that unit. These guys rolled a 16 up 2 attack. Scored a PTC. 16 up 2 because they have assault fire. So he has an 8. 3.5. Fractions rounded up 4, 5 each. He routes to there. He's pinned so he cannot interdict. The other guy's broken. And we move into close combat with the pin unit. There is no ambush because they're out in the open. He has a 3-2 attack. And everybody else advances. Close combat. And here comes the 3-2 attack, roll of 5. That unit is gone. The other unit was attacking back at 1-4. I needed a 3 or less and rolled a 5. Risky. Close combat is always risky. But in this case, it paid off. It paid off because he has more or less a free, provided this unit is not a dummy, he has a free exit. He can run. So rally phase, German turn 2. Goes for weather and we get gusts. At this point, we already corrected our little mistake with the snipers. And here we roll. Somebody picked up something. We're trying to pick up a MMG. I believe it was eliminated somewhere. Here we go for a soft rally. This unit tried to self-rally, didn't make it, and this unit loses the M. And here we go for our 6 up 2 attack. Rolled a 7, plus 2 is 9. We scored that as PTC, test check. They all passed. Now, if that attack was successful, that would have been a game changer. Here we go. And what are we doing again is we're trying to move all the units here in front of, or in a direction where, in a position where we can fire upon our enemy. And let's move along. Using bypass movement, as you can see, loses concealment. Now this fellow here, these fellows here, see this guy, but they have 2 hindrances in the way, plus the hedge, plus a +1 for being CX. So we got 1, 2, 3, and 4, but it's using non-assault movement, so we subtract that. So we got a 12 up 3 attack. A4. That's the axis hand. 4 plus 3, 7 on the 12 chart. And we scored a 1 MC. Leader rolls an 8, breaks. 9, breaks. And another 9, breaks. Continue with movement. And conscripts can only move 3, which is a bummer. Round phase. So, long story short, these guys are going to just run back to the stone building behind them. This unit rides forward. And we're advancing. So now we're at Ally turn 3. I believe it should be rally phase. And he just rallied. Sometimes I forget to turn that face wheel. Alright. These guys tried to rally. With DM, he needed a 3 to rally. So he didn't make it. They cannot do soft rally, so it's just doing a little bit of maintenance there because it's not their player turn. We got rolled for weather there. Prep fire. Are we going to prep fire? Of course not. Here we go, on the run again. This is important. Let's center on that. But I decided not to fire there, from here to there, because it would have been a 2 even shot. That was my mistake. I thought I would have line of sight here. Anywho, and I don't. Should have been obvious to me. This is kind of basic line of sight rules. There you go. And these units are firing on these guys. We got a pretty good roll there. So what did it result in? Pins. See, we got 2 pins. But a couple of other units there are now just going to march up, and here we are at the crescendo of the gameplay. We're going to probably turn to defensive fire phase. And now I have to load log number 2. I took a little break so I can play a live game with my good friend Dennis Freeber. So here's the Action Jackson, and we're at defensive fire, ally turn 3, and we're rolling to advance phase. So we turn to advance phase, they're going to fire back. And do they have assault fire? Yes, they do. According to rule, so this is the rule of the week, Alpha 7.36, assault fire is still available to pin fires in the advancing fire phase, but not to, for example, up fire units. So they rolled a nice 7-shot, and an 8-shot cowering, and pretty much this fire against the American player was ineffective. We went to a rout phase, and now it's advanced phase actually. So we're poised to win here. So we have 2, 4, 6 exit victory points. I'm not counting the leader, just to challenge myself, I suppose. Close combat. Just going over the situation here. Oh, the situation for concealment gain. We see that 236 has lost to them. Self-rally. There's my self-rally up there. He didn't make it. And it's German turn 3, the last German turn. Then marker comes off. They're going to try and rally, and he didn't rally. Now, the units underneath this leader, instead of picking him, I could have very well have picked him, a single man count, a multi-man counter under this leader, because since the leader is not in good order, I can self-rally one of these 2 units, but once this unit rallies, I wouldn't be able to use self-rally again on that unit, or would I? Upfire. Where do we get the upfire from? Here, to preserve his strength or his firepower of 2, bring the unit, swing the other unit around here, and then they can fire a group there for a 4, up 1 shot. Assault moves, using bypass to move into a position to fire here. He subsequently loses his concealment because he can be seen. There's my rapid deployment group. Made it to his objective, really. Or conscripts can only move 3. Defensive fire phase. Here's my target. They're in range, and they're halved to a 6 even shot, I believe. May have played that wrong. Rolled 3 sands. Darn, I was completely oblivious to that. Here's another axis sand. Well, actually, $12-0. Yeah, that was the German player playing his own sand. The 12-0 shot was from here to there. Yeah, sorry for any confusion. So in rolling his morale checks, he activated his own sand, so nothing happened. Oh, wasn't that dumb? There you go. Advancing fire. Now he has no advancing fire. Unfortunate. So now we're on to route phase. And really the game is really over at this point at this juncture, because although I have a good fire group there, it won't be much of anything actually. Trying to rally. They do rally, Germans, some of them, not all of them. Still have some broken units there. Yeah. And it's Allied movement phase. So what I decided to do in this case is move into the wheat field, bang, out. Let's see what happens. There. And I believe I checked the LOS, and it's blocked by the edge. Lucky me. So 1.5 to there. Rolled because I did string the LOS. 3, 4, and off the board, and I got at least 4 victory points. Here we're going bypass for 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going to get off in the advance phase, and he's good. 2 to there. Takes a shot. 6 up 0 somehow, right? Because it's now assault movement. Roll a 6 on a 6, 1 morale check, and a couple of units. They don't make it. So there's 2, then bypass movement for 3, 4 to there. CX. There's another 2 units. So there's the victory right there. Which phase are we at? Allied advance phase? Advancing fire phase, actually. So ultimately, the German player, in this case was me, broke a squad and a leader there. Stair got broken. The hero, Mr. Sloan here, he's wounded, but not out of action. He's fallen behind. We fire back, giving a parting shot as the American. Resulting in only a task check. He rolls forward into this stone building. So we have 3, 4, 5 victory conditions. We've done it as the US player. And that's the end of the log. Right. So that's my after action report. I should have put another banner up there. Give me a sec. There you go. Advanced Squad Leader After Action Report. And we don't need the drawing tool. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'd like to thank again to everybody, all the subscribers, all the new subscribers. A special mention to Peter Polakos, who I've known since he was a toddler, really, and good friends with my son Michael. Thanks for subscribing, Peter. Stay cool, stay good. And a little public service announcement as well that I feel should be said. Although I enjoy playing war games, I am not a warmonger. At heart, I am a pacifist, even though I did some military service. I'm a pacifist, and I joined the military service because I believe in a strong deterrent. I do not believe in war. I do not believe that people should solve their differences through war. What Mr. Putin has done in the Ukraine is repugnant and reprehensible. Never in the history of my lifetime did I ever imagine or think that I would see and bear witness to a battle taking place on European soil to the extent that it is the largest invasion since the Second World War amongst people that, from an ethnic perspective, they say they have the same common Slavic roots. In the post-era world, Germany conquered Greece economically a lot better and profusely than it did with military measures. Right now, for everybody's sake, I am praying for peace. And I also saw another story of a 92-year-old lady that survived the encirclement of Leningrad, protesting the war, being arrested. I hope everybody rallies and frees this 92-year-old lady from a Russian imprisonment. And hopefully this predicament will end soon, peacefully, rather than have a continuation of the war. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I already said more than enough. The video is 42 minutes. I wasn't expecting it to go further than 20. It took me 3 takes because I have some new equipment and I had to reset everything. And I'm not too sure why down here I have a discoloration of the GI Anvil of Victory box. It should be green. It's turning out to be turquoise. Oh, I think I know what it is, so I will correct that. Anywho, take care, stay safe. Let's all pray for peace, and I'll see you again next time. Take care.